We were on the road to a family reunion when my husband suddenly went pale and whispered, "Turn the car around. Now." I froze, confused. "Why? Just turn around, please." I'd never heard him sound like that before. I trusted him. That choice ended up saving us. When I finally learned the reason, I could never look at my parents the same way again. The plan that morning had been simple: leave early, load snacks in the back seat, coffee in the cup holders, drive a few hours, cross into Canada, greet relatives I hadn't seen in years, and fake enthusiasm over potato salad. Nothing dramatic, just a plain, boring family trip, which was exactly what I wanted. I was the one driving, as usual, partly because my husband has the unnerving habit of braking at the very last second, and partly because motion sickness is one of my many unfortunate talents. The kids, 3 of them, ages 5, 7, and 10, were half asleep in the back seat, half watching a cartoon, half bickering about imaginary seat boundaries. Tiny chaos wrapped in matching neck pillows. It was all fine, neither wonderful nor terrible, right up until my husband said those words. "Turn around. Now." At first, I smirked, assuming it was a joke, one of those reflex laughs you give without thinking. "Why?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. His eyes locked on the road ahead, his jaw tight. Finally, he said, "Please, just turn around." That's when I knew he wasn't joking. My husband doesn't panic. His baseline setting is calm, sometimes tired, occasionally annoyed, but never shaken. I'd seen him handle a kitchen fire with more composure than this, so I took the very last exit before the border. The ramp curved gently, almost as if the road itself was offering me a second chance. As soon as we veered off, I saw his shoulders drop just a little, but enough to know he'd been bracing for something. "Okay," I said carefully. "Want to explain what's going on now?" He shook his head. "Just drive." "Drive where?" "Anywhere but there." The kids were starting to notice. "Are we lost?" my middle one asked. "We forgot something," I said automatically. "What?" "I'll tell you later." The youngest piped up, "Is it snacks?" I didn't answer. Neither did my husband. The silence stretched. 20 minutes passed, maybe more. Trees blurred by. My stomach knotted with an unexplainable guilt pressing at my spine. Finally, he spoke. "Take the next turn off." The road led to nowhere, just a narrow, unmarked access path you'd only find if you were lost or hiding. I pulled over. He unbuckled his seatbelt. "Stay here." Then he got out and walked to the back. From the driver's seat, I couldn't see what he was doing. My palms were slick with sweat. My heart hammered like it knew something I didn't. After a minute, I heard the trunk shut. He came around to my window. "Can you step out?" "Why?" "I need you to see it." He wasn't angry. He wasn't even scared. He just looked tired, certain. I climbed out and followed him to the back. Without a word, he opened the trunk and pointed. I looked and forgot how to breathe. Fear didn't hit me right away. That would come later. What I felt was heavier, slower, like the floor of my life had just collapsed beneath me. I didn't touch anything. I didn't need to. I knew one wrong decision could cost us everything. Here's the bitter irony. I'd always thought I was the responsible one in the family. Not just the boring kind of responsible, paying taxes on time and wearing sunscreen. Though yes, those too, but the kind of responsible that meant stability. I wasn't the one who disappeared, or blew up, or lied for sport. I helped when I could afford to, and I set boundaries when I couldn't. Looking back now, I realize that being the responsible one in my family was like being the designated driver at a demolition derby. They didn't want help, they wanted cover. And for years, I gave it. It started when I was a kid. My parents believed that a good life was all about appearance, not finances. If you looked successful, if you seemed generous, if your Christmas lights were perfectly straight and your fridge stocked 5 different mustards, then you were fine. Didn't matter if the credit cards were maxed out or if the gas got shut off that one winter. The script was always the same: we're doing fine, stick to it, or get rewritten. We had tight years. I remember cereal for dinner. One parent or the other always working late, which I later realized meant they didn't want us to know we were broke. And we had good years: new car, new TV, patio furniture no one sat on. Money came and went like weather. What never changed was the spending. I once asked my dad why we didn't save when things were good. He said, "You don't need savings if you know how to hustle." I was 8. My sister inherited all of it: the charm, the hustle, the way she could light up a room while quietly draining your self-respect. She was the favorite, not a secret. Not even a scandal, just fact. She was like them. I wasn't. They called me boring, uptight, too serious. My mom once announced in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner that my problem was mistaking discipline for personality. And the wildest part, I believed them, because in a family like that, you learn that love is conditional, learned by being useful, tidy, reasonable, so I became the dependable one. They'd call when they needed help with insurance forms or school paperwork. Or when my sister lost yet another job and needed someone to cover the gap. I gave what I could. Not too much, just enough to keep the wheels turning. Just enough to avoid being the villain. Even when it hurt, even when every no I dared say was labeled selfish, I kept giving. Because they were my parents, and because it felt easier than the alternative. Then everything shifted about 4 months before the trip. My sister's son, my nephew, was struggling in school. Bullied, they said. Withdrawn, anxious. They'd taken him to a therapist, who supposedly recommended a smaller, private school. Exclusive, expensive, life-changing. They couldn't afford it, obviously, but they'd gotten him conditionally accepted if they put down a deposit. They just needed a little help. We'll pay you back, they promised. My stomach dropped. It wasn't that I didn't care, I did. I love that kid. I wanted better for him, but I also knew the pattern. I knew exactly how this story ended, so I said no. Gently, like I was handling glass. I can't, I have 3 kids of my own. We don't do private school. I'm sorry. They didn't yell. They didn't beg. They just went cold. Of course, my mom said flatly. I forgot. You have rules. We didn't talk again until the reunion plans came up. Suddenly, everything was cheerful. They were thrilled to see us. The school figured out. The trip, all set. I didn't ask how. Told myself it wasn't my business. A few days before we left, they asked if we could take an extra bag. Our car's too full. You've got the SUV. Sure, I said. That morning, as we packed up, my dad handed me a red duffel. Won't fit in ours, he said. Just this one. I tossed it in without a thought, didn't unzip it, didn't question why the people who claimed they couldn't afford groceries were suddenly all smiles. As we backed out of their driveway, they waved like people without a care in the world. For a split second, I thought it was strange. Then I shrugged it off. Just another bag. Just another family trip. Maybe I should have asked more questions. Maybe I was too naive. But when my husband unzipped that red duffel on the side of a back road, folding back a sweatshirt to reveal what was inside, my world stopped. Packets. Multiple. Stuffed in a child's toiletry bag, vacuum-sealed. Not vitamins, not medicine. Nothing innocent. Nothing that didn't come with handcuffs, lawyers, or headlines. And in that instant, I finally understood why he'd told me to turn around. I couldn't speak, my throat locked, my chest frozen. It felt like drowning in slow motion. He didn't say, "Look what they did." He didn't say, "This is what I thought." He simply zipped the bag shut and let the silence speak for him. I stepped back. The gravel crunched under my shoes as if it belonged to some other world, detached from anything real. "They put that in our car," I finally whispered. My voice paper thin. "With the kids," I added. He gave another silent nod. I tilted my head toward the sky for no reason at all. It was still bright, still blue. The day looked beautiful, and I hated it. The world should have looked wrong, because everything inside me felt wrong. "How did you know?" I asked. He didn't answer right. Awa just stared at the closed trunk like it was still open in his mind. "When they handed us the bag," he said at last. Something in their eyes. The way they smiled, like it was already done. Like they knew it would work. He shook his head hard, as if trying to fling the memory out. I couldn't stop thinking about it, the whole drive back. And then, just before the border, it hit me. He glanced at me. I didn't know for sure, but I knew. And somehow, that was worse, that someone else had seen what I had trained myself not to. I walked slowly back to the driver's seat, climbed in, shut the door, and sat there for a minute. The sun baking through the windshield, my hand trembling on the wheel. Then, I started the car and drove. The kids didn't ask questions. They were lost in a cartoon, already forgetting Canada. Aunt Karen, the cousins, and the little toy bags I'd packed for the reunion. We drove aimlessly, highway, back roads, nowhere in particular. My phone buzzed nonstop. First my mom, then my dad, then again and again. Neither of us answered. We didn't have to. We already knew the questions. Where are you? What happened? Are you okay? Where's the bag? We just kept driving, the phone lighting up like a tiny alarm clock every few minutes. Eventually, we turned toward their house, almost on autopilot. No discussion. We both knew what needed to happen. I pulled into their driveway. The porch light was still glowing, even though it was mid-afternoon. He got out first, moved to the trunk. I followed. No words. I reached under the mat and found the key, still taped to the back of that fake rock my dad bought from some catalog that also sold deer whistles and solar frogs. He opened the door. We stepped inside. The air reeked faintly of old coffee and carpet shampoo. We placed the red duffel just inside the hallway. We didn't open it. We didn't adjust it. We just set it down, a quiet bomb that didn't need to explode to ruin everything. He locked the door behind us. We climbed back into the car. Still no words. Speaking felt like it would contaminate something sacred, or fragile, or both. Later that night, after the kids were asleep and the house had gone still, I finally answered one of the calls. My mother's voice came bright and false, like she was calling about a bake sale. "Oh honey, we were so worried. We didn't know what happened. You just disappeared." I stayed silent. "Is everything okay?" She tried again, still silence. "Where's the bag?" I let that hang for a beat. Then I said, "We dropped it off at your house." A pause. "If it mattered that much," I added, "maybe you should have taken it yourself." Her voice didn't change, but I heard it, the catch. The tiny flicker that told me she understood exactly what I meant and that I understood exactly what she'd done. She said nothing. Neither did I. Then I said, "We're not doing this. Don't call again." And I hung up. No yelling. No big speech. Just a line drawn and a door slammed shut. It should have ended there, but it didn't. Single quotes. Not yet. They showed up the following Wednesday. No warning. No text, just the doorbell. As casual as if they were dropping off muffins instead of guilt. I knew it was them before I looked. There's a pressure some people bring to your doorstep, like static in the air, like a smell you can't scrub out. I opened the door only wide enough to step out and closed it firmly behind me. There they were, standing like they hadn't just tried to detonate my life, with a smile in a duffel bag. My mother's practiced grin looked warm but never reached her eyes. "We wanted to check in," she said, like I'd simply missed a brunch invite. My dad chimed in. "We thought maybe we could clear the air." I crossed my arms and said nothing. My mom hesitated, then admitted, "We didn't know how much you understood." There it was. The tell. They knew. I knew. They just didn't know how much I'd let myself believe. "You mean the bag?" I asked. Silence, which was all the answer I needed. "You put it in our trunk," I said, "with your grandchildren in the back seat." My mother swallowed. "We didn't think it would be a big deal," she murmured. "It wasn't going to be anything," my dad added, forcing his voice steady. "Just something to help with the debt. That's all." We were desperate. "You wouldn't help," my mom tacked on. The fallback excuse, the universal defense. You wouldn't help. Like betrayal was the natural consequence of me setting boundaries. I didn't just say no. I said quietly, "You betrayed us. You risked our lives. You risked your daughter, your son-in-law, your grandchildren." "Neither." Spoke. My dad shifted his weight. My mom blinked, like she wanted to cry but couldn't summon tears. "We're done," I said. "Don't call. Don't come here. You don't get to see the kids. This is over." She opened her mouth, and I could already hear I tear overreacting. "You'll calm down." Instead, she said, "You'll come around. You always do." I turned and walked inside, locking the door behind me, and for the first time in years, I didn't wonder if she was right. 3 days later, I arrived at school for pickup. The kids weren't there. My stomach dropped so fast, I couldn't breathe. The teacher's words felt like an alarm. "Oh, they were already picked up. Your parents said you asked them to." I don't remember driving. I remember the engine noise, and then I remember being there at my parents' house. Inside looked like a birthday party had exploded. Balloons, toys, candy, an entire Lego set that cost more than my weekly grocery bill. The kids, sugar high and glowing, clutching new things. My parents, acting like this was love instead of strategy. My mom sliced cake. My dad crouched on the floor, building something that beeped. It felt like stepping into an alternate reality, where they were the kind of grandparents who gave instead of took. But I knew better. This wasn't love, it was manipulation. Weaponized affection. They'd never spoiled the kids before. Not once, but suddenly, after I cut them off Santa Claus with a debit card, I stood there. trying to recall what it felt like to give them the benefit of the doubt. I couldn't. "We're leaving," I said. The kids whined. "But why?" Grandma said, "We're leaving." Now they didn't understand. How could they? They were being told yes by people who'd spent a lifetime saying no. They liked it. Who wouldn't? "Can we keep the toys?" one asked, clutching a stuffed bear like it held all the answers. I hesitated, then nodded. Taking them away would make me the villain. I wasn't giving my parents that win. As we walked out, my mom called after me, her voice sing-song and soft. "They'll come back to us. They always do." She said it like it was fact. Like a promise. Like she still thought she could win. That night, I didn't wait for some breakdown or cosmic sign. I sat on the bed, looked at my husband, and said, "We have to leave." He didn't ask why. He didn't need to. I don't want them near the kids, not at school, not in the store, not living down the street pretending they're harmless. He nodded, like he'd already been halfway there. "You mentioned North Carolina," I said. "Your company's office is there. Your parents live there." I wasn't ready then. I am now. He nodded again. "The transfer is still on the table." "Good," I said. "Let's take it." No drama. No hesitation. Just a quiet decision to burn the bridge and never look back. I didn't want revenge. I wanted distance. Peace. A clean slate where they couldn't reach us. Months later, we were in North Carolina. The mountains stretched wide and green, the air smelled like pine and second chances. The kids had new schools. His parents warm-grounded. Drama-free lived 20 minutes away and actually wanted to help. We told no one where we'd gone. Blocked numbers. Disappeared. Not in the find-yourself dramatic sense in the we deserve peace sense. One day, my phone rang from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened. A cousin I barely knew. "Hey, your mom says she doesn't know where you are. She was furious when she wrote, 'You just cut everyone off.' I don't know what's happening, but family should matter." I erased the text without responding. No call back. No explanation. By that point, none of it mattered except one thing. We were safe. We were free. We hadn't vanished. We'd escaped. About 6 months later, we were living in a new state with a different school, fresh routines. I was almost used to checking my phone without that familiar knot of dread. The quiet wasn't exactly comfortable yet, but it no longer terrified me. Was just still. Then an email arrived from my sister. The subject line read, "Emergency. Please read." I stared at it for a long time. Considered deleting it unopened. Even thought about flagging it as spam. In the end, I clicked. The message was rambling, panicked, and clumsily punctuated. The essence. Our parents had been arrested again this time, not just for recklessness. Though that was part of it, but for actually committing the crime they'd once nearly gotten us blamed for. They'd attempted to smuggle something across the border themselves. No intermediaries, no scapegoats in the family, just a car trunk packed with product and 60-somethings who still believed laws were optional. Of course, they got caught. The email closed with a desperate plea. They need help. They need a lawyer. This is serious. You have to let the past go and be there. They're your family. I read that line 3 times. Then I replied with a single sentence. I already showed up once. I'm not doing it again. And I meant every word. I didn't hear anything else for a while, nor did I need to. But news always travels eventually. Cousins talk. Family roots can rot, but they run deep. I heard they were charged with possession with intent to distribute and with attempting to cross an international border carrying controlled substances. A few pounds enough for intent charges, not enough to make headlines. They accepted a plea deal, 4 years each. Not a life ruiner, but not insignificant either. Plenty of time to reflect if they're even capable of that, which I doubt. The part of me that used to wince whenever someone mentions second chances is quiet now. We've built a life here. It's not perfect, but it belongs to us. The kids laugh more. My husband sleeps through the night. And I haven't had to turn guilt into silence for a very long time. As for the rest, I don't regret setting that boundary, not for a single second. But you tell me, did I go too far, or not far enough? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe.